When I really started to make an impact in my own life, and when I started to strive for something meaningful, I was always somebody that was trying to see the bigger picture in life. I was always somebody that was trying to do what was right. But oftentimes, I let my fleshly desires impact me to the point in which I was stuck in certain modes of being. And it took a significant and drastic change, which is one of the reasons why I call this channel Regal Change and my business is Regal Change, just because it took a regal change for me to really get my act together and start to actually do something meaningful with my life. Because beforehand, I was pursuing the fleshly desires, and really I was highly nihilistic, and in a way that nihilism drove me to have this nihilistic view that was neither fruitful or helpful. It was neither beneficial either. And so I ended up losing everything to get someone. And I had to lose all of the externals. I had to lose everything external. I had to lose family. I had to lose friends. I had to lose relationships. I had to lose love. I had to lose everything that I thought was true about the world and about life itself to gain someone. And that someone was Jesus Christ. Because when I really started to make the decision to follow Christ, it was as if I was literally being brought back to life from the spiritual death and decay that I was in. It was like God Himself was breathing life back into me, and I had to accept the grief and the pain of the tragedy that I really thought was my life. I viewed my life as a tragedy, because here I was, a guy that wasn't necessarily born into anything extravagant, but I have had to deny and let go of inheritances. And I was even threatened that by some of my family members, like, oh, you won't get an inheritance if you make this kind of decision. So be it. I will not receive the inheritance then. They're like holding it over my head. And then with friends, it was like, well, if you make that decision, like, this is what's going to happen. And then you have people that are gang stalking you, that are seeing you rise, even though some of those same friends that are like, well, we're gonna not be friends with you anymore if you make that decision. It's like, okay, so they want to isolate you. Some of these people that are your friends out here, they would rather see you isolated and struggling and kicked while you're down, just so that they can feel better about themselves and their own life, because they've made stupid decisions as well. And you might not have always been making the best decisions. I know I always haven't. Even to this day, I'm not making the best decisions. Like, I'm paying a price right now that I don't necessarily need to be paying, but it's a decision that it's my responsibility and I have to deal with it accordingly. But hopefully God will have mercy on me, for I am a sinner because of the situation. But it always goes to show, like, God never ceases to amaze me. You can do everything and anything right for so long, and you can think that you're doing the best that you can, and then God will test you in ways that you have no clue that you're even being tested in some instances, until the test is over and you're like, oh, that was a test. Okay. Well, so recently God is testing me pretty heavily personally. And it's like, there's so many different kinds of tests that can go on. But one of these tests right now is it does feel like Job, the book of Job, where the devil is attacking on all sides. And it reminds me of something very similar that happened to me when I first started following Christ, when I really started to make the truly righteous decisions in my life for the first time ever. I was really striving for righteousness. The stuff that I'm going through now, and maybe you can resonate with this, is very similar to what I was at the very beginning. And it's like God is really, really fortifying the inner strength right now. And this is what you gain when you lose everything. When Jesus says that he who forsakes, he says, I might be paraphrasing this verse here, but he says something more along the lines of, he who loses his life shall find it for my sake, something along those lines. And I don't think that there's any truer way to describe that. Because when I lost everything, my relationships, my family, my friends, my money, my everything that I could lose, I was losing. What I was gaining in return was true spirit, true life, true recognition that this was it. Like, this universe, this world that we live in, this is the real deal. And even though it's all temporary, it doesn't make it less real, okay? Because it is all temporary. But that, again, does not make it less real or less painful. Because oftentimes, the most times that we have pain, like the most powerful forms of change come about through pain, because we don't want to be there. We don't want to be in that painful state. We don't want to feel that grief. We don't want to feel that loss. We don't want to feel like we're doing something wrong or that we could be doing better. But the thing is like, in this world that we live in today, you could be doing everything right, and you could be punished for it seems like, because the world seems to only really reward people that are liars and cheaters and manipulators. It's like, some people, in order to find a job, they have to lie on their resume and then just learn whatever it is they need to learn before they start the job or on the job, after they already get the job. Or with their relationships. Literally, this happened the other day. A woman who was at the gym was staring me down, hips facing toward me, a little bit open, giving me the most seductive look in her eyes that I could ever see in a woman. Looking at me like she wants me to put a baby in her. Not like 10 seconds later, over comes this guy and starts asking this woman about her ring on her finger. Turns out she was freaking married or something. She's either engaged or married. And he's like, kissing her and like, oh yeah, how do you like your new ring, honey? This is the world that we live in. Like, how can we trust people anymore if this is the kind of behavior that we see? We see men that are going back on business deals. We see men that are not, like, it's no wonder men don't want to lead. It's no wonder men don't want to try. It's because who wants to be honest in a dishonest world anymore? Now, me personally, I do. But it's not like there's not a price. It's not like there's not something to pay for being truthful. But it's like, you could lose everything. You can lose all of these material possessions and friends and people. But guess what? If you lost those people, this is what was really profound to me. When I lost my family, because I'm not really in contact with my family much at all anymore. There's only like one or two people that I think I could probably talk to again in the future. But for the most part, I was raised by thieves, manipulators, connivers, and narcissistic individuals that did anything and everything to make sure that if they couldn't take advantage of you, they're going to take you out, and they're going to let you know about it. And they're going to make the whole community make it seem like it's your fault. And this happened with not everybody in my family, but majority. And the friends that I had, it was like I was repeating certain patterns and processes with friends. But guess what? Those people were never your family. Those people were never your friends to begin with. Because what kind of friends or family would actually do something like that? Okay, that's what you have to ask yourself, and that's what you have to realize. So when you lose everything to follow Christ, you're not actually losing what you think you're losing. You're losing the egoic image of what is you, and you're gaining something that is actually fruitful and truthful. And yes, it requires you to bear your cross and bear the burden of existence. But what's more palpable and more satiating? Obviously, the bittersweet truth of life is harder to swallow, but in the end, it's more palpable, it's more fulfilling. You can actually feel it legitimately in your soul, in your belly too. Like even physiologically, you can feel more whole by following God's laws, statutes, and commandments. There are other people that are super wicked, that are not acting righteously, and that are living luxuriously, quote unquote. But guess what? They're all having to pay a price for that. And they may have all the things, but they don't have inner peace. They don't have inner light. They don't have the light of Christ. And so you have to recognize that all of this is temporary. This whole universe here, this whole world, as beautiful as it is, it's temporary. And you might be going through the craziest shit in your life. But it's temporary. And it's hard to remember that when it's right there in your face. It's hard to remember that when the pain is so strong and you're so angry because you're so confused and you don't understand. It's like the more you know, the less that you can really grasp of reality in some ways. And it's not like you're crazy. You're just, you know so much that it's like you have no choice but to operate in a certain way and to live in the truth and the spirit. And people don't know why you're doing it sometimes. They don't know why. It's like, well, why not just lie? Why not just like go back on your word? It's like, well, because then words don't matter. Then like principles don't matter. Virtues don't matter. And that's what's going to be more valuable. Following God's laws, statutes, and commandments is a virtue in of itself. And so people may take all of these things in our lives. They may take all of our possessions. They may take our money. They may take everything. It reminds me of Braveheart, where he just screams freedom as he's being tortured to death. Because they cannot take that. Nobody can take that from you. And even if you allow it, that means that you disrupted your virtues and your honor, your true virtues and honor, for the sake of pleasing somebody else, whether you know that or not. And so I don't intend to do that. I will never, ever compromise my integrity or my honor for the sake of fulfilling, it's not even fulfilling, it's about satisfying some kind of fleshly desire of another person. Because they desire more material things, or they desire, like, who cares? Some of these people take life way too freaking seriously, and some people don't take life sincerely enough. Some people only take life seriously when it benefits them. Some people only take life and relationships seriously when there's something in it for them. And that's the hard truth. Like, that is just, it's painful. It truly is painful to watch. And we don't wish ill will on anybody. As godly people, we don't wish ill will. But guess what I will pray for? I will pray for you to grow closer to God through fear and trembling. Because if you don't fear and love God, you're not really a godly person. You're not really somebody that's walking in spirit and truth. Because it takes somebody that really has a reverence for Christ and a reverence for the Most High God, but also a fear of that, because I fear more than anything else in the world losing God's favor and not doing what God wants me to do. That's what I fear most. I don't fear losing my material possessions. I don't fear losing my friends or my friendships or my relationships or anything out externally. What I fear to lose is my relationship to the Most High God. And you might have to lose everything in order to realize that. And I know I did. I'm not perfect, but that's exactly what happened to me. I had to lose pretty much everything. And so I'm here to give this message to hopefully give you guys some knowledge or insight on, you don't have to lose everything in order to have a relationship with God, but you might. You might. And that's going to be something that you just have to accept. And there are going to be certain seasons in our life where we're going to be reaping or sowing what we're doing. Whatever it is that we're doing, we're going to be reaping and sowing something. And so it's up to you to determine like how you act when the trials come. And when the trials come, like, are you going to be, as a man, are you going to be crying, not knowing what to do or how to do it? Or at least, like, if you're crying, you're going to be creating a plan while you're doing so. That's what I did. When I first started following Christ, I had no clue what I was doing. I thought I did, but I didn't. But it was only when I admitted to God that I didn't know what I was supposed to do, is when I got some kind of semblance of understanding of where to go and how to get there. Like, I knew how, I knew where I was going. I just didn't know how. And God showed me how. And He's still showing me how. He's still taking me to school, man. It'll be like this for the rest of my life. I know it. But anyways, guys, I hope this message was useful and insightful in some way. And peace be with you. Until next time.